Mhm. Mhm. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wellness with Watson YouTube channel, Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. My name is Coach Lacy, and I'm just sharing in the groups here. Okay. All right, then we're gonna go live. Let me just show, please. Okay. Okay. Welcome to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. Whoop. My name is Coach Lacy, and it's Wednesday morning today. Sorry, still. We need to hit record. Okay. We're doing it. I promise. It's later. Okay, there we go. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. My name is Coach Lacy. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell if you're watching on YouTube so that you are notified every time I go live for Rise and Shine with Morning Moon here on Wellness with Watson. You might be watching me on YouTube, you might be watching on Facebook, or you might even be watching on TikTok. But wherever you're watching, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and download my guide, my Release Foundations guide to anchor into your morning checklist and the Wellness Foundations, and check in with the Circle of Life Foundations every seasonal change. You can find that at my website, www.lacyjwatson.com. It is today, Wednesday, April 16th, and welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. It's a beautiful day here in the Pacific Northwest. And today, I just really want to talk about life's seasons and the changes, the changes of life, and when it's time to move on to a new level. That has been sitting on my heart quite heavily today. And I've been thinking a lot lately about what it means to truly recognize that a season of your life is ending. We're nearing the end of spring, although it feels like it just began. And sometimes in life, that's the way that the seasons go. And it's a really complicated feeling. And often it's this mixture of sadness with nostalgia and some grief mixed in there. There's a little bit of elation, and there's a little anger and a little bit of despair. There's a little bit of everything when you're changing seasons in your life. You don't often feel such complicated emotions all in one moment. And it's like the changes in the seasons of the world, how spring is going into summer. It will get hot out one day and be just sweltering, and you'll be like, oh, I don't know if I like this. And then one day it'll be very cold. Like, oh, I want it to be hot. And so life is very similar to that. And you just feel this mixture of emotions when you are changing seasons in your life. And there's a part of us that really wants to cling to what we know. And even if it's like uncomfortable or if it's no longer fulfilling, because there's just comfort in the familiar. And even if the familiar isn't necessarily what's right for us anymore. But the thing that I've learned in all of my seasons is every ending is really just the beginning of something new. And sometimes we forget that when changes go on, new changes and choices and seasons will come. And there will be new celebrations, new things to milestones to celebrate, new friends to enjoy, new memories to create. And we get caught up in the fear of what's coming next. So sometimes we overlook those incredible opportunities that lie ahead. I want you to think about your life right now and where you might feel like you're stuck in life. It could be, in a job, it could be in a town, it could be in a relationship or a friendship or a certain way of living your daily life, just down to your habits and routines, you know? And maybe deep down you sense that it's time for a shift, but because of the fear and uncertainty, you stay stuck in place and you don't make a move. And our choices every day that we make, they shape our outcomes and they shape the memories that we're making. And our memories become either our deepest joys or our deepest regrets. No matter what that is, the choices we make in the moment shift the outcomes, and we really have to be intentional with it. And so I want you all to sit with that for a second. What choices have you made that have become your greatest joy or your deepest regret? And how can you make better choices in the future to create memories that you enjoy replaying? Every decision that we make, no matter how small it is, down to our words, it's crafting the future that we're going to look back on. And it's creating the stories that we tell ourselves, that we tell our family, that we tell our friends. It's literally crafting our legacy. The words that we tell others, the words that we tell ourselves, everything, all the stories we create is what crafts our legacy. And that's what we leave behind as what people know of us. And do we want to, when we're looking back, how do we want to feel? Are we going to be proud of ourselves for being brave and doing it afraid and doing the things that we would otherwise never do because we were too stuck in our own head, even when it was uncomfortable or scary? Will we look back and wonder what we might have done had we just taken that chance? Had we just, you know, taken a moment to do the thing that was most uncomfortable? And sometimes it's not taking chances. Sometimes it's sticking to what we know and continuing forward even when we don't feel like it. And it's anchoring into those healthy habits and those healthy choices, and making sure that we do the right thing even when times are tough or even when we don't feel like it. That is what sets people that are successful apart from the people that are least successful. Is we make choices that if we're going through chaos, we're going to anchor into our healthy habits, and we're going to anchor into doing a good job wherever we're at, whether it be, work, school, volunteering, whatever we're doing. We want to make sure that we do it to the best of our ability, no matter what chaos is going on around us, because that means we're not lost to the storm of life. And that's what anchoring in is all about. So we want to have lives filled of joyful memories and minimal regrets. And joy often requires the courage. It requires us to sometimes step into the unknown and trusting God or the universe or whatever. But sometimes, it requires sticking to our routines and anchoring in to our rituals and, having the courage to stick with something, you know? And the question often is, how is it time that we know when it's time to let something go and move forward, right? Well, ultimately, it's listening to your heart, not listening to God, and listening to what you the divine design for your life is, there's a voice inside you that whispers there's more than this, or you should be sticking to your routines. It's those gentle nudges that starts as a feeling of restlessness or curiosity, or even just deep dissatisfaction, you know, and it's what we do when we feel this deep satisfaction or this uncomfortable nudge. Most of us push it away, or we silence it because change is hard and uncomfortable and unpredictable. But if we were to actually listen to that little voice and honor it and ask it the important questions, what are we really seeking? What really is the calling on our life? And, what are we afraid of setting down, that what are we afraid of taking out of our backpack, so to speak, that we're going up the mountain with? What are we afraid of taking out of our backpack, putting down, that it really isn't serving us anymore? And what possibilities might exist if we allow ourselves to move forward, or to anchor in to the foundations. If we were to actually move forward and anchor in, then it could actually make a big difference in our life if we just stick with certain things. It's just depending on what the divine, design and calling on your life is, and if you're really in tune with that and know, how to listen. So you really need to take a moment and just listen and journal it out and think about it and pray about it and, dream about it. What is it? And really honestly answer those questions that are in your heart. Life is not meant to be static. Life is not meant to just be, going through the motions. It's meant to be the ebb and the flow. It's meant to be uncomfortable, and it's meant to be have moments of joy and comfort, but it's not meant to always be comfortable. It's not meant to always be uncomfortable. When seasons change, it's usually because, when life's seasons change, it's usually because we've learned all we needed from it. It's time to release. And whether those lessons were about, forgiveness or patience or resilience, or simply discovering more about who we are and who God is, each season in our life serves a purpose and adds to our growth and adds to our legacy and adds to our story. But it's how we tell the story. You're not the author, you're the storyteller, and you can change the story with the tone. You can change the story a little bit, but you can't rewrite the whole thing. You can change it a bit with your tone and with the way that you position things, but there's a calling on your life, and we need to accept and encourage and embrace changes, and we need to choose growth and rather than stagnation. If we're resisting moving on, we're essentially choosing to repeat the lessons that we've already learned, and we're choosing stagnation. So embrace your changes and your challenges and your choices, and mourn the endings, and grieve the goodbyes and the new beginnings. you know It's sad. It can be sad. It can be heart-wrenching, but it's also a celebration of what's ahead, because what's ahead is always growth, and it's always, new people, places, and things, new experiences, new lessons, new versions of you waiting to be discovered, you know. But the question for yourself is, how can you move forward with love and intention and peace, and not get bitter over some of the chaos that's you've endured? If there was chaos in your life, how do you change the story into one of triumph over, trauma? So you have to acknowledge the truth of your feelings, and you can't, you you don't want to pretend, you know. It's okay to be scared, it's okay to be unsure, and it's okay to be uncertain, but don't let those feelings make decisions for you, and don't let those feelings create words that demonize other people, places, and things and times of your life. Everything serves its purpose, and you make your decisions, and make a clear intention of what the next season you want to look like. If you're in a transitional period, write it down, speak it out loud, let it guide you forward. Don't let the people, places, and things of your life that have entered your life take charge of whatever is on your heart. You need to be the one that is leading the ship. You're going to have new people and places and things that are going to sweep you into their storm. Don't get swept into it. Just hone into what you need and anchor into your foundations. Always anchor in. Have you anchored in this morning? journal, read, move, eat healthy food, drink water, get rest. You know, this is how we anchor in to our peace, is rest. Peace comes from trusting that your life is unfolding exactly as it should, and trusting that setbacks and disappointments are lessons to be learned that are shaping you and are strengthening you and guiding you towards something better. Like going to the gym. Trials are just like going to the gym. You're strengthening those muscles of emotional resilience. And we want to move with love and loving yourself and others, and gratitude, and thankful for all the lessons and the people, places, and things, even if they've been difficult, and even if you've had trials and traumas. Thank you for those trials and traumas, because they've shaped me into who I am, and now I'm more resilient and I'm more able to make better choices moving forward, right? So even the hardest transitions become bearable when we operate from a place of love and peace and acceptance and gratitude, because we can be grateful for what was and excited for what was is to come. So just remember that life is always moving and transitioning and shaping and learning and challenges, choices, and um, you know, we this is how it goes. This is even the earth has seasons. Our seasons might not always match up with the, seasons of the earth, but we have our own seasons, and there's a time to grow and a time to move on. And as we, you know, reflect on that, just know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now in this moment, and have the courage to embrace whatever season you're in, and trust the journey, and trust your intuition, and trust that you're on the right path, and carry your backpack and take whatever's in your backpack out that doesn't serve you anymore. Set it down, give it to someone else. Like, we're done. We don't need that no more. Bury it and safe. I'm done. So anchor in if you haven't already to the Rise and Shine wellness checklist in the Rise and Shine with Morning Moon Facebook group. And I hope that you have a beautiful Wednesday. I'm so grateful for you wherever you are. And I cannot wait to see what beautiful things lie ahead in your next chapter. So I will see you tomorrow. Ciao.